We'd always been the couple people envied. Priyanka and I moved through life like partners in a slow, practiced waltz, synchronized social calendars, matching brunches, warm smiles for everyone. So when I saw her on the dance floor with that man, it felt like someone had ripped the music out of the room. It started the way these things always do, small, plausible lies. Priyanka began saying she had to stay late for events and client dinners. She'd come home smelling faintly of a cologne I didn't own, eyes bright in a way that had nothing to do with us. I told myself I was being paranoid. I asked myself if my marriage had slipped into boredom, and I'd mistaken a little distance for betrayal. I told myself a lot of things to quiet the worm of suspicion in my gut. Then came the charity gala, the perfect place for everything to bloom or rot. The ballroom was a glow of chandeliers and earnest smiles. The DJ played old favorites while guests sipped champagne and pretended not to watch the couples around them. Priyanka looked stunning in a navy dress. I'd spent time researching the event so I could shine beside her, the right tie, the right anecdotes for the table. She kissed me in front of our friends and slipped away with a glass to greet an old colleague. I watched the spot where she disappeared and felt a stone drop into my chest. 20 minutes later, I saw her, not greeting anyone but laughing, leaning in close to a man I didn't know. They moved together like people who'd shared private jokes for months. My chest tightened. Heat crawled along my spine. I could have gone straight over, created a scene, demanded answers. Instead, something quieter formed in my mind. If I was going to expose this, I wanted it to be unmistakable, not a he said, she said at a late-night bar. I wanted the truth served with clarity, witnessed by the people who mattered. Back at our table, I pretended to be absorbed in conversation, while my fingers texted two names, Samir and Aditi. Samir was my oldest friend. Aditi was Priyanka's college roommate who still kept tabs on her on social media. At the gala, I wrote, on the dance floor. Wear something that looks like you're here to celebrate. Bring your phone. No details, no drama, just a timestamp. I didn't follow them directly. I waited until the right song played, the one Priyanka and I considered our song, the melody that used to make us slow dance like no one else existed. People cleared space, couples drifted toward the floor, and I saw them in the center. Priyanka and the man, their shoulders touching, their smiles private. The impulse to storm the floor nearly broke me, but instead I stood, glass untouched, and walked to the bandstand. The saxophonist finished the verse, and the MC announced a dance-off for charity, a silly bit to coax money from the crowd. The MC scanned the room for volunteers. I raised my hand before I even thought about what I'd do. Everyone cheered. Priyanka's eyes flickered toward me for a fraction of a second. Recognition, confusion. Then she smiled and turned away. I danced like a man who has something to prove. I wasn't trying to be graceful. I wanted presence. When the MC called for couples, I pointed to Priyanka and said, loud enough for our table to hear, "This is my wife. Care to join?" The man next to her stiffened. Priyanka hesitated, then slipped her hand into mine as if nothing were wrong. We moved together to the center and the music pushed us around the floor. That's when I let the moment do the work. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't pull her aside. I smiled, slow and deliberate, and began to dance while narrating softly and but loud enough into the microphone the MC still held. Funny how life puts you in unexpected places, I said. This is our song. Funny who we choose to dance it with. The room leaned in. Aditi and Samir arrived at the edge of the circle, cameras ready. I kept dancing, kept talking. I read a few lines I'd written that afternoon and memorized just enough to sound like fate rather than fabrication. Priyanka, you used to tell me you loved honesty more than anything, I said. So here's an honest question from me to you, in front of all the people who know us. Who are you dancing with tonight?
Is it a colleague?
An old friend?
Or someone more?
Her cheeks flushed. For the first time that night, she looked like she might crumble. The man who wasn't me tensed and stepped back, muttered something about a mistake, and tried to join a nearby group. A few heads turned to look. The MC, sensing drama, tried to fill the silence. I let him. Then Aditi, with perfect timing, clicked open her camera and showed the live feed to our circle. A string of messages she'd captured earlier in the night between Priyanka and that man. Snapshots of late-night plans, flirty emojis, and a picture of them at a rooftop bar a week ago. Samir chimed in casually, as if he'd brought up a trivial detail. Isn't that the guy from Priyanka's project team? That's when you could feel the temperature drop. The music dwindled to background noise. People stopped clapping. Priyanka's confident posture collapsed into something small and ashamed. She tried to smile at the crowd, a practiced, protesting smile, but it looked thin. Her attempts at explanation came out rushed and incoherent. "It's not what it looks like," she said. "We were rehearsing for what?" I asked softly. "An affair rehearsal?" Her friends' faces shifted from confusion to disbelief to pity. The man fumbled an apology and left, the way cowards leave when the lights get bright. Priyanka's hands trembled as she tried to breathe. I could have finished it there, handed her the mic and let her apologize. But I had one final move. Proof. While she spoke, Aditi discreetly passed me a USB drive. I plugged it into the venue laptop, and with a click, the projector flared to life behind the band. Screens showed a timeline, messages, photos, flights, hotel bookings, everything arranged so the narrative read like a document, not gossip. It started with small, innocuous texts and ended with plans for an overnight trip in 2 weeks. The ballroom watched a marriage unravel in tidy, chronological order. Silence after the projection was worse than any insult. People shifted in their seats. Someone murmured about calling Priyanka's roommate. A table mate who'd been our friend for years excused themselves and left. I realized revenge wasn't a roar. It was a switch. Everyone's perception flipped in a single, clean motion. Priyanka's apology was a whisper. She tried to reach for me. I stepped back. The man who'd been dancing with her was gone. The bright chandeliers felt like interrogation lamps. I hugged our daughter when she came to me later. Yes, we had brought her to the gala, and in that hug I knew why I'd done it. Not to ruin Priyanka, but to preserve the truth for the people who mattered. Our friends, our family, our child. Afterwards, there were calls, confrontations, tears. Priyanka demanded to talk. I gave her a list of times when she could see a counselor and a mediator. She begged, she promised, she blamed exhaustion, she blamed me. But the projection had already done what words can't always do. It made the fact objective. In court, in therapy, in the slow negotiations of divorce, evidence is stubborn and unforgiving. Months later, when the dust had settled, friends asked if the gala was over the top. I'd rehearsed my answer. They say public exposure is cruel, I told them. Maybe it is, but there's a cruelty in living inside a lie you asked me to dance to for years. The projection had been the last honest movement I could make in that waltz. Life moved forward. I left the city for a while, took the daughter on long weekend trips, and rebuilt a life where truths were spoken without theatrics. Priyanka moved out, found new apartments, new regrets. People picked sides. Some stayed, some left. The dance floor that night became a memory etched into everyone who'd been there. Not because I wanted applause, but because sometimes the only way to end a performance is to stop the music.